There's things that I know you have moments where your soul lights on fire. It just feels so good and you get energized, and then you let your life happen to you. You let your mind beat it down. You talk to your family and they shut it down, and you talk to your unsupportive friends and they beat it out of you. What is up, everybody? Dan here. Today I want to talk about something that's on my heart. I need to share it with you, and it's the idea of giving up the good to pursue the great. If you've ever felt like you were stuck in something that wasn't broken, but it isn't awesome, and you want to make a big decision, you consider it a big decision, but you're holding back because you're scared of what other people are going to think, or losing the momentum you've built, or whatever it is, I want to share a story with you that might give you some perspective, and then also share some principles that have helped me make big decisions. In my life, I've done everything from, sell companies, move cities several times, left relationships that weren't supporting me, et cetera, et cetera. If you've gone through it, I've definitely been there. And I have some philosophies I think that might give you some perspective, some points of view to help you make those decisions. But my favorite one that I like to share is when I had a $1.8 million a year coaching practice called Elite Entrepreneur, and I decided to leave that to go pursue a new thing called SaaS Academy. And the challenge is here I spent 2 years, about a year and a half, 2 years building up this group of incredible entrepreneurs that I had the privileges of working with to help them scale their companies. And the challenge was that they were all over the place. They weren't just software. They were, everything from manufacturing companies to consumer products to agencies, et cetera. I just love business. So I wanted to really support them and grow them. And I was doing that. At first I did a 6-month cohort, then I did another 6-month cohort, then I did a year program. And I just realized there's a bunch of stuff that I wasn't following, I wasn't in love with, okay? And then I had a conversation, which I'll tell you about in a sec, with somebody that really gave me permission, and I'm hoping this video does this for you, gave me permission to make the decision to go all in on what could be great. Elite Entrepreneur was good, and honestly, in a lot of people's eyes, it was great. Most coaches never crack 6 figures, let alone $1 million, let alone kind of the growth that we'd created in that short period of time. But for me was asking myself the question of fast forward 10 years, is this what I want to be doing? Is this aligned with my vision for my life? And does this light me up? Does this create the most value for my customers than anybody else in the world? Which is a question I ask myself often. Am I creating more value for my customers than anybody else in the world? If you haven't asked yourself that question, do that. And that's what caused me to come to the realization that I needed to shut down the program, literally shut it down and start from scratch to build SaaS Academy, which today, 4.5, 5 years later, has become the #1 largest coaching programs in the world. I have a team of, I think we're at 45 people, clients all over the world, 1,000 coaching clients. And none of that would have happened if I stayed on the previous path. And I share that because I want to unpack some of the beliefs that allowed me to get clarity around that decision. Pun intended, because that's one of my previous companies called Clarity. The first belief, it was surround yourself with great people. See, oftentimes, even this morning, I do a founders hike every Tuesday, but I hike all the time. So I was hiking this morning, and I was talking to an entrepreneur about confidence. And she was asking, one time you said something about confidence is the commitments you make to yourselves that you keep. And when you break them, you don't keep them. And they said, well, how do you hold yourself accountable to keeping the commitments you make to yourself? What's the process for that? And the truth was, I said 2 things. One, I speak my decisions into the future. I make a claim on my shot. I call my shot, okay, to the world. Here's what I'm going to go do. And then anytime I'm going to make a deviation from that, I always reach out to people that I admire. And this is where surround yourself with great people comes from. People that have been there and done that. My peer group, my mentors. And I use them as a sanity check and a litmus test of hey, am I being distracted by doing this thing or pursuing this idea? Or is this aligned with what I'm trying to do? And having people in your court to allow you to evaluate the current, which is technically the good. To do the great is how you do it. When I was deciding to make that decision, the conversation that shifted it all for me is one of my best friends, Todd Herman. And I was talking to Todd, and he said something like, why are you stepping over dollars to pick up nickels? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're the only person in the world that I know that is qualified, has a reputation to actually teach software entrepreneurs how to scale. You've done it yourself. You've exited your companies. You've invested in a bunch of software companies. You teach this stuff. You've been doing it for a decade. You've been blogging. Why are you teaching general business advice? And I was like, man, you're right. I think it's because I didn't want to say no. I didn't want to focus, right? And what Todd gave me permission to do, because I admire him so much, was he gave me permission to make that tough decision. And it was like, I remember I was pacing in the backyard at my place in San Diego, and I didn't want to make the decision. I ran in the house and I made it, and I'll talk more about how to do that. But that was a big thing, is surround yourself with people that you feel are great at their thing to get feedback. The number 2 is align with the future. I mentioned this earlier that to me, I'm always trying to make decisions. Here's where I want to go. This is the future, way over here. And today is a sequencing activity of, is this the right order and at least the right direction of the things I want to do so that I can achieve the outcome? Because there's nothing worse than leaning the ladder of success against the wrong wall, only to climb it to get to the top to find out it's leaning against the wrong wall. Okay? I don't doubt you'll be successful. But honestly, when I look back at like the decision to do general business coaching, if I would have just given myself a little bit more time to think further ahead and say, okay, I'm successful, I have 1,000 clients, what's gonna light me up inside? Is it gonna light me up inside that I'm answering a bunch of different questions from left fields and from people that I can't help because I have no experience in their industry, like HVAC and whatever? Or do I wanna be surrounded with innovators and people that are pushing the envelope in regards to the possibilities of how to scale and grow fast, et cetera? And man, that was the unlock for me, was the alignment of my future. So if I would have took more time to think through what could that look like, I probably would have made that decision on my own a lot sooner. So that's a big one. And then the third is JFDI. If you don't know what it stands for, Google it. It's part of my manifesto, actually. Check this out. So I have this all over my house. This is just my manifesto. If you go to danmartell.com/manifesto, they're all written out there. And the Google, JFDI is the bottom corner right there. Google it. But essentially is, if it speaks to your soul, if it speaks to your soul, take action. Go for it. Do something to move it forward. You know, me and my wife talk about, F yeah decisions. Is this an F yeah decision? If it is, go. When I decided to move to Kelowna, okay, there was no good reason to move from East Coast Canada, 3,000 kilometers or miles away, other side of the world. But I just had to ask myself one question. Is this the right decision? Does this speak to my soul? Is this an F yeah? And I looked at my wife, and she said yes, and I said yes, and I said, boom. As soon as I made the decision, I called Richard, my real estate agent, and said, find us a house. Here's what I want, find us a house. And it took a while. And then I started working through the process. But I wanted to make the commitment. I wanted to JFDI it, even though it wasn't till probably 6 months later that we finally made the final transition, which is fairly fast. I mean, I'm pretty quick on doing stuff. But I just think like, there's things that I know you have moments where your soul lights on fire and just feels so good and you get energized, and then you let your life happen to you. You let your mind beat it down. You talk to your family and they shut it down, and you talk to your unsupportive friends and they beat it out of you, right? Your left brain logic overtakes the emotional drive and desire that you know you could possibly do it, and you don't do it. That is, to me, the philosophy of like giving up the good to focus on the great, because honestly, the riches are in the niches. Like being able to go deeper, to go say, well, I don't have to be everything to everybody, but I can be the best at this for those types of people. That is the decision you got to make. A lot of people, if you're watching this, you might be stuck on the fact that you haven't made that decision around who you serve and who you don't serve, or the product you serve, or even starting the business. But you might have a good job making 150 grand a year, but that's stopping you from becoming the person who could produce 10 million or 100 million a year, which sounds crazy. if you're thinking in the next 2 or 3 years. But you give yourself enough time horizon. You say 25 years. Could I, just for fun, what's the harm? Let's imagine, could I, in the next 10 years, I don't know, 5 million a year? If you gave yourself 25 years, 15 million, 25 million? You'd be surprised. It would blow your mind what's possible for you if you focus and attack and focus and attack and focus and attack. And that is why oftentimes you may have something that's working that is good, but it's not great. And we got to turn off the good to give ourselves some space for the great. And I just want to leave you with a great quote by Christopher Paolini. And he says that without fear, there is no courage. Think about that. It's going to require some courage for you to make this decision. And I want to tell you, it's a good thing. It's needed. It's required. If it wasn't there, then it wouldn't make sense. It would be an easy decision we made a long time ago. So if the fear is there, know that it's required to have courage and be courageous. And that's what I hope you take away from this message. So with that, I hope this video finds you incredibly well, and we'll be talking soon. Peace. Later, everybody.